Okay, so welcome to the class, everyone. Let's start a new topic that will be your probability analysis. Now, when I talk about probability analysis, probability, sensitivity, VAR, Monte Carlo, and all of these topics, what I have seen, only one of them is getting tested, and majorly it is for 4 to 5 marks only. So we will study according to that part only. Okay, let's go to probability analysis. Probability analysis. Now, probability analysis mein beta we have like different things. First of all, we have independent events. The occurrence of one event does not affect the other event. That is independent. Conditional, the occurrence of one event is going to affect another event. And then exclusive. Occurrence of one event will ensure that the other event will not happen. That is that two events will not happen together. अब probability analysis में more important concept that we have over here is the concept of expected value. Okay, the important concept that we have over here is the concept of expected value. They will provide you different probabilities of certain something, and you will be required to calculate the expected value. For example, they will give you in a simple language, they might give you sales will increase by either 0.4%, 0.5%, 0.6%, different things they will give. Okay, so most important concept over here is the expected value. This can be a part of a long APV or a NPV question, everyone. Expected value, it is nothing very tough. It is sum of probabilities and events. Okay, sum of probabilities and events. For an example, let's say we have one project. This is one question, everyone, that we have. Now, if we have to find out the probability of, let's say, project 1 happening. Probability of project 1 happening, how will we find that? 100 into 0.4, 200 into 0.3, 1000 into 0.3. This will be equal to how much, everyone? 100 into 0.4, 40, 200 into 0.3, 60, and this will be equal to 300. So the total will be 400. Similarly, over here it will be 0. 500 into 0.3 is equal to 150. 600 into 0.3 is equal to 180. So 150 plus 180 will be equal to 330. So probability of state of market of project 1 and project 2 will be 400 and 330. So this is expected value analysis, everyone. In the exam, they might ask you to go for advantages and disadvantages. Please remember all the advantages and disadvantages. If I talk about this thing, even if we have not studied a particular advantage and disadvantage, it doesn't mean they won't test it. They might test you about that question. So if I talk about this particular example, what could be the advantage? With the help of your expected value, you can check the probabilities of different areas. You can take, you will have a relative wider and view, and it is relatively simple as well. These are the advantages. If I talk about limitations, right? So probabilities of different possible outcomes may be difficult to estimate, right? Then the average may not be, may not correspond to an possible outcome. That could be a problem. Also, it does not indicate a possible result, because if you look over here, my answer is 400. In none of these I have 400. Right. So this is one problem with the probability analysis that we have. Always remember, just go through and read once, that is more than enough. Now, there are three main rules which are associated with probability. ठीक है. The very first rule that we talked about is the additional. Additional rule में बेटा, the probability we can find out with the help of addition. We just talked about it. If I have several mutually exclusive outcome, I can find, guys, remember, several mutually exclusive. Then I can find the final result with the help of some of their probabilities. Then we have multiplication rule. Multiplication rule. Now, as per this rule, as per multiplication rule, the probability of two independent event occurring, independent event occurring is equal to the probabilities of their product. That is your probability rule. Probability of two independent events occurring is equal to probability of A multiplied by probability of B. As simple as that. Now, third rule, subtraction rule. When two events cannot happen together. When two events cannot happen together, then that is equal to probability of A minus probability of B. 90% of the times, either addition or multiplication rule is tested. Either addition or multiplication rule is tested. Okay. Then we have something called as conditional probability. Conditional probability is nothing but the happening of one event depends upon the happening of other event. Happening of one event depends upon happening of another event. Okay. Over here, what we have to do is we have to use the multiplication. For example, conditional probability में let's say B depends upon A. So the probability of both that the both A and B will occur will be equal to probability of A multiplied by probability B upon A. As simple as that. Now, you might have a question, said, is it going to be tested like number of times? Absolutely not. These are just given, they are not tested. I mean, the probability mein this topic is never tested. Just for your understanding, read it once. Okay. Knowledge will not kill you guys. So just read it once and that's more than enough. Okay. Then we have a topic that is called as sensitivity analysis. Now, when I talk about sensitivity analysis actually tells me that how will my particular variable will get affected. Okay, if something is changing, if certain something is changing, how will that affect my particular variable? That is my sensitivity analysis. Okay. sensitivity analysis. Now the formula is very simple over here. Sensitivity analysis is nothing but what if analysis. It is nothing but also called as what if analysis. Okay. Now the formula is pretty simple. We don't have to worry much on the formula side. It is equal to NPV upon present value of cash flow considered into 100%. NPV upon present value of cash flow under consideration multiplied by 100%. For an example, if I am trying to find out, let's say, present value of sales volume, so I will take all the present value of my sales, all the present value of my sales over there. If I'm trying to find out scrap values, I'll find out the present value of my scrap value. But as sensitivity, you have to understand that, let's say, if I'm talking about sensitivity of sales, and it is, we calculated that it is 5%. So it means if my sales will change by 5%, my NPV can become 0. Okay, my NPV will become 0. This is the meaning of NPV. Also, there is one topic on the cost of capital. Okay, sensitivity to cost of capital. In that case, whenever you have to use, whenever you might have to calculate sensitivity to cost of capital, you will use IRR. Okay, you will use IRR. This is the basic question that they might test you on. So do remember this part. Okay, so sensitivity to discount rate ka beta, there is one trigger that I want you to remember. Why? Because it cannot be calculated using the direct formula. We have to use the IRR and the difference between the current and IRR. So that will be used to find out the sensitivity to discount rate. Okay, so this is something that you should all remember while solving your question. Now, when I talk about advantages and disadvantages of sensitivity analysis, everyone, that is pretty simple once again. If I talk about advantages, so advantages tells me ki, how a change in a particular estimate is going to affect the project variables. Okay, or how a change in project variable is going to affect my project. In a simple language, how a change in project variable is going to affect my project. Also, it helps us in identifying the key variables in the NPV project, which is very important for my management. And when I talk about limitations over here, then the effectiveness of this model depends a lot on the data that we are using. Right. So if data is not good enough, then this analysis, that whatever we are doing, is of no use. Also, it assumes a static relation between variables, ignoring that the probabilities might change over time. This is one problem, because I am doing it right now. I will say ki bhai, this is the final that we have, but sensitivity keeps on changing, everyone. This is something that we have to remember and appreciate as well. Now, after that, we have one more topic that is called as Monte Carlo simulation, always tested in theoretical, everyone. Okay, never tested in exam for numerical purpose. So just remember ki over here NPV, or sorry, that sensitivity or the probability analysis, whatever we are doing, we are not able to change more than one variable. Okay. But when it comes to Monte Carlo simulation, we use different variables. Okay, but we use different variables. And these variables, we provide different probabilities. We provide different probabilities. So we change more than one variable at the same time. And it is a computer based technique. Okay, remember this thing about the Monte Carlo simulation, everyone. It's generally tested for 5 marks. So I will share you a complete theory notes over where you will find one question that has been tested on the Monte Carlo simulation, and nothing else is tested from that part. So you don't have to worry much onto the Monte Carlo simulation after that, everyone.